going to be an incredibly jam-packed Friday transmission of the highest import, obviously. It is already the second day of March 2012. In the last month, over and over again, I said that I saw clear evidence of a purge coming against what is seen as anti-establishment. There are power struggles within the left and right Democratic Republican Party kind of servant class of the big offshore megabanks. And a lot of the different power structure media people hate each other for whatever reasons. So they're struggling like two different mafias over the switches. And there are some people who actually believe in their ideology and who do not like corruption, like Andrew Breitbart. And I had said, get ready, I'm seeing different telltale signs, a whole spectrum of them, and calls for staged terror attacks to be blamed on opposition to Obama. That's public memos. That I'm saying that we're entering a prime zone for political purging. Then you saw Judge Napolitano axed. Then you saw Pat Buchanan, same week, axed, MSNBC. There is all sorts of scuttlebutt I'm getting from behind the scenes from big folks in talk radio that they're getting major pressure to back off Obama and to back off criticisms of government-run health care. Because Obama is so unpopular. I mean, he's in free fall. And he's the establishment's guy. Who's who they put the money on. And Obama has been smart. He's pumped hundreds of billions of dollars, well, trillions to the big foreign banks, but hundreds and hundreds of billions to every big city mafia there is. Acorn was just one small part of that, where they saying 8 to 10 billion a year. And so Obama wouldn't even need to call the hit on Breitbart. He wouldn't even need to have his mafia handlers, the Chicago mob that runs him publicly, on record. I mean, look at all his associates. They wouldn't even need to call for the hit. He wouldn't even need to say, boy, it'd be great if Breitbart went away. It just happens because Breitbart made so many enemies because he knew how to go out with undercover reporters and infiltrate these groups and just absolutely destroy big city machines. And you can say he did it because he was moral. You can say he did it because he was competitive and wanted to be number one. You cannot deny that big mainline Republicans do not go after the big machines. Because back in the 80s and things, Republicans and Democrats would blow each other's aircraft up. I mean, there have been so many cases of senators, House members being killed. There's a reason politics got, the rhetoric's heated, but when it comes to going after real corruption, they can't. It's like Fast and Furious. I told you 6 months before it happened, I said, if they keep calling the Attorney General in, he's just going to say, hey, Bush was doing the same thing, shipping guns into Mexico, which was going on under other programs. We reported on it almost 7 years ago with inside sources like Celie Castile, former DEA agent. The difference is Bush didn't blame the Second Amendment with it. Bush was shipping them down there to try to control different cartels because the big banks are laundering the money. Obama went one step further because they are radical. They want a hot takeover of this country. They went from using Homeland Security, quote, on the Muslims to gun owners, conservatives, libertarians. So I'm not saying Republicans good, Democrats bad, Republicans bad. I'm saying there's fights in the power structure. And now the consensus is emerging, we'll cover it after the break, that of course Andrew Breitbart was killed. Of course he was. Of course he was. Now the smoking gun has come out. Not only did he say he was going to release this video that would destroy Obama and other material dealing with communist connections, but he did something more. He was going to release it March 1st. There are massive geopolitical developments taking place. Huge developments in the economy with Bernanke saying we're headed towards the edge of a cliff. Yeah, and they've been pushing us the entire time so they can destroy society and buy everything up for pennies on the dollar. There are admissions of plans for civil unrest and the arrest of political dissidents. All of this is coming out. Everything is being revealed because we're right up to the uncloaking point of the takeover by a global corporate fascist system through the giant big government systems that these corporations have lobbied for and that they've got their personnel in place for. Of course, Sheriff Arpaio is bringing out what we exposed a year ago, and that is that the long-form birth certificate is a forgery. It is a fake and a bad fake, a ridiculous fake. And, of course, we have videos out there and reports with millions of views and reads breaking that down. I've had listeners saying, cover it, cover it, cover it. We've been covering it. And the fact that Arpaio is covering it, I mean, what does that signify? But the birth certificate issue and the fact that his forensic team says that it's a clear fraud, in fact, a shoddy fraud, as I said when all of this first happened. That day, we did an analysis that turned out to be absolutely on target. We were the first to notice it was in multiple layers, not just in the program, but had been created in layers. That shoddily done. And so, yes, it's back, and people aren't believing it. People aren't believing anything that comes out of this liar-in-chief. Everything Obama does is a lie. He is a mafia frontman for the Chicago mob. There is no doubting that. Now, I'm going to get into Andrew Breitbart, but there is a connection between the birth certificate and Andrew Breitbart's untimely death. And big breaking news on that front. And I'm going to go over it right now. You know that the White House, 1 week before the release of Where's the Birth Certificate by Dr. Jerome Corsi, who's joining us in the last 30 minutes of the broadcast today, the guy that swift-boated John Kerry. So the system's scared of him. Multiple #1 New York Times bestseller. And the information in that book was accurate. That's why they were so scared of it. When Corsi was about to release that book through World Net Daily, 1 week before the White House, after 2+ years of not releasing it, released the birth certificate. And there's sworn affidavits on record from people that worked in that Bureau of Vital Statistics in Hawaii that said they'd looked, it was not there. The colleagues had looked, it was not there. The governor had told multiple newspapers that he'd gone in to put it to bed, and because the governor's allowed to go in and look at that and not show it to the public, but at least say I've seen it, and it wasn't there, and that it was going to be a big issue. That came out months before. So this had built to a head. On top of that, Bush, during the campaign, even though he was leaving office, turned out diplomatically had the U.S. ambassador to Kenya say, please go look at his birth certificate, and they said it's been removed, probably destroyed. Now, folks, that's hiding in plain view right there. That's 1 + 1 = 2. Not even 2 + 2 = 4. It's so easy. In fact, it's not even 1 + 1 = 1 or 2. It's just looking at the number 1. It is as plain as the nose on your face. This is not rocket science. If it was removed, and they believe criminally, and destroyed, then he was born in Kenya. Because it's not going to be cut out of the book if it wasn't there. If he was born in the United States, in Hawaii, it wouldn't be cut out of the book in Kenya. And then Corsi flies over there to see this and gets arrested. Put on house arrest at his hotel room for 3 days till he can fly back. Because there's a new sheriff in town. Obama's the president now. He put his cousin Odinga in charge, a known communist / Muslim. And when Odinga couldn't win the presidency, the emails are public when Senator Obama told him, have your people riot and then demand a seat in government. So they created a prime ministership just for Odinga. This is all on record. So, yes, we've covered this ad nauseum. Because I saw this meme on the comments on YouTube and on my site. You're not covering it, you're covering up the birth certificate. And quite frankly, I'm not somebody who's prodded into covering something unless I've already covered it and, well, I see some new facets and then I discuss it. Or maybe it's COINTELPRO on purpose. You know, Alex works for Obama. He's covering up for him. I mean, I see that as a meme out there. Or I work for the Russians because I've gone on Russian TV. It's like I've gone on Japanese and British TV. It's just, it's back when I was exposing 9/11 as a false flag event, used to take our liberties any way you cut it. People would say, he was secretly trained in Afghanistan, he's a Muslim and all this stuff. I mean, it's just, it's cartoon level. The traitors are the mega banks. That's the big threat. Okay? I'm an American. I'm as American as you can get. So Americana, my pedigree is ridiculous. And I won't even get into it here. You don't get more USA, more America than Alex Jones. It just doesn't happen. And I think that's a reason, historically, genetically, everything, that I'm here today fighting the New World Order. Because I didn't pay attention to my pedigree when I was first waking up to liberty. I didn't like tyranny. And there's a reason. My ancestors didn't like tyranny by Mexico. My ancestors were at the heart of founding this state. My ancestors were at the heart of the Mayflower on both sides of my family. My ancestors were at the heart of the Revolutionary War against the British. My ancestor was at the heart of inventing the stock exchange. My ancestors were at the heart of every big movement and every big change for good. There's a lot of truth to what the elites say about who your ancestors are, where you come from. But the elites, they come from inbred psychopaths who are always sucking off of everybody. My ancestors are people that resist tyranny unto death and never back off and never falter. If people think the death threats I get and the dirty tricks and the state police making more than 10 calls in the last 3 days to my local affiliate trying to get me kicked off the air, if you think that'll make me back off or be scared, you got another thing coming, you anti-American, globalist, traitorous garbage. But it is a flaming joke when people say, I am anti-American. America is the Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, private property, the family, due process of law. That's what America is. And it grows out of the Magna Carta in England, 1215, paid for in blood. Freedom is not free. It's just that simple. And I will tell you now, before I get to the huge news on the Breitbart front, that the consensus from multiple national talk show hosts I've talked to and from others in media that are very close to the late Breitbart, I will leave it at that. About as close as you can get. I'll just leave it at that. The consensus is he was murdered behind the scenes. And the consensus is, without anybody even having discussed things, forget the maneuvers, go straight at them. Everybody's just going to intensify, and nobody's backing off. And if the system thinks killing him is going to make everybody run, they got another thing coming. If they do start killing, if you start seeing people like Matt Drudge die, people like Michael Savage die, people like myself die, and others, you know there's a purge going on. And do whatever you think you need to do at that point. I happen to know that Michael Savage has a whole bunch of bodyguards. In fact, I knew this a long time ago, and it confirmed it from other sources. Now he's in the news saying he told Breitbart to get bodyguards, and he basically has them. And I don't care, but Watson was playing me the audio this morning. He reads our articles in full on air and never even says where they come from, and then complains that Rush Limbaugh and others rip him off, which they do. But I only listen to Savage because I don't have time. He is an interesting talk show host, very intelligent. I think he's the best of the big mainstream hosts out there. I don't agree with a lot of what he says or does, but he is a very intelligent person. And he just reads our articles every day on air and never gives us credit, which is fine because all I care about is getting the info out. But then a caller calls in and calls me, a globalist agent, and Savage doesn't disagree with him. I mean, that's really uncool to read our articles every day on air and then let a caller claim I'm like a commie or something. I mean, that's just not right. But the point is, Savage, no one has reported this, broadcast from 6 different locations and is hiding and wearing disguises running around and believes people are trying to kill him. And I think it's true from what I've been told and heard. Savage has bodyguards and broadcasts from 6 different locations and drives around in armored cars, basically, and is even afraid most of the time to go out on his boat now, which is his favorite thing. That's why he lives in San Francisco.